Cleetus McFarland just took his shot at NASCAR's best on one of the toughest short tracks in the country, and it ended with his car torn apart and a blunt three-word quote afterward: "I just suck." Let's break down exactly what happened at Berlin Raceway, because there's a lot more to this story than one bad finish. Wednesday night, Cleetus rolled into Berlin Raceway in MI, Michigan for his first ever super late model start, and NASCAR sent a serious welcoming committee. We're talking a full-time Cup Series driver, a Craftsman Truck Series champion, and some of the most decorated short track races in the country, all lined up on the same 2-7 car entry list as a YouTuber who'd never turned a lap in this type of car before. Berlin Raceway itself is part of why this was such a bold choice for a debut. It's a tight, nearly circular paved oval just over 4/10 of a mile around, and that shape makes it brutally difficult to drive. There's no long straightaway to reset your entry into the corner and no obvious braking marker, just a continuous arc where the car stays loaded up almost the entire way around. Carsten Hofer, who owns a track championship at Berlin and has multiple wins at the venue, has described it as a place where there's never truly a perfect race car, and that winning simply comes down to whoever handles the imperfections best. That's the track Cleetus chose to make his super late model debut. And he didn't ease into it with some low-pressure Saturday night show either. He went straight into the Tekton 250 battle at Berlin, a 250 lap crown jewel event with a $40,000 winner's check on the line and 30 cars originally entered. And this was not a soft field by any measure. Carsten Hofer came in as the reigning 2024 winner of this exact race, racing essentially in his own backyard as a Michigan native. Ty Majeski showed up fresh off winning the Money in the Bank 150 at the same track earlier this year, adding to a resume that already includes a Snowball Derby win and a Craftsman Truck Series championship. Bubba Pollard, one of the most decorated super late model racers of his generation, was in the field hunting another crown jewel trophy. Austin Hill came back to defend last year's win, and Evan Schotko, a past winner at Berlin himself, was fast from the moment cars hit the track. The history of this event only reinforces how serious it is. Kyle Busch won the first 3 runnings back in the early 2000s. Eric Jones won it twice later in the decade. Bubba Pollard beat Chase Elliott for the win in 2023. This is a race where Cup-level talent regularly shows up and still doesn't guarantee a win. And Cleetus walked in with 0 laps of race experience in this specific type of car. So, how did the night actually go? Better than a lot of people probably expected, at least early on. In his first hot lap session, Cleetus ran a lap that put him roughly 13th quickest out of the field, sitting well within 0.2 of a second of the fastest car on the property in a brand new car he'd never raced before. That's a genuinely respectable start for a complete newcomer to the discipline. His second qualifying run went the other direction though, and he slipped back into the low to mid 20s on the speed chart. That swing says a lot about what makes Berlin so tough. The racing surface changes constantly as the tires give up grip, and without years of prior laps and reference points burned into memory, drivers end up chasing the car instead of actually driving it. The race itself was a rough physical night for Cleetus almost from the start. He had an early spin trying to avoid trouble ahead of him, rubbed fenders with other cars, dealt with a tire rub, and even got a middle finger from race leader Evan Schotko while getting lapped in the middle of the event. Then, with under 20 laps to go, his night ended for good. He got loose right in front of the leader, spun down the track, and while the leader managed to squeeze by, the car running directly behind him wasn't as lucky. That was Keith Harp running 14th at the time, and the contact between the two cars was heavy enough to end both of their nights on the spot. Cleetus limped his wrecked car into the infield and finished 19th. Talking to Flaw Racing afterward, he didn't sugarcoat it, saying simply, "I just suck." While all that was happening, the front of the field was building into a genuinely dramatic finish on its own. Evan Schotko led most of the race before something appeared to break on the right front of his car with under 15 laps remaining. He surrendered the lead to Bubba Pollard, then lost second to Tristan McKee, and eventually went hard into the turn 3 wall, ending an otherwise dominant night early. That handed the race to Pollard and McKee, racing door-to-door in the closing laps. Pollard appeared to bottom out entering turn 3, and that was exactly the opening McKee needed. Tristan McKee, who happens to be making his own NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series debut. Bubba Pollard collects another heartbreaker finish at a crown jewel event. Hochvar and Majeski salvage respectable runs at a track that humbles almost everyone who shows up. And Cleetus McFarland gets his first real, unfiltered taste of exactly what super late model racing demands from a driver, wrecked car, and all. And it's worth pointing out just how unusual this whole week actually is inside the sport. Most drivers spend years working up to a crown jewel super late model race like this one, running smaller regional shows first to learn car control before ever touching a field this stacked. Cleetus skipped that entire process and went straight into the deep end against guys who've been doing this since they were teenagers. That's part of why a 19th place finish, even with a wrecked car, isn't really the disaster it looks like on paper. It's a data point. He knows exactly what corner it happened in, exactly what the car was doing, and he's got another race in the same car on the same track less than 3 days later to apply that lesson immediately instead of waiting months for the next opportunity like most short track rookies have to. So, what do you think? Was 19th a fair result for a total first-time start against a field like that? Or did Cleetus bite off more than that car could chew? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to catch every lap of what happens next at Berlin this week, including his brand new late model series debut, make sure you're subscribed because this story is far from over. And this was not a soft field by any measure. Carson Hochvar came in as the reigning 2024 winner of this exact race, racing essentially in his own backyard as a Michigan native. Ty Majeski showed up fresh off winning the Money in the Bank 150 at the same track earlier this year, adding to a resume that already includes a Snowball Derby win and a Craftsman Truck Series championship. Bubba Pollard, one of the most decorated super late model racers of his generation, was in the field hunting another crown jewel trophy. Austin Hill came back to defend last year's win, and Evan Schotko, a past winner at Berlin himself, was fast from the moment cars hit the track. The history of this event only reinforces how serious it is. Kyle Busch won the first 3 runnings back in the early 2000s. Eric Jones won it twice later in the decade. Bubba Pollard beat Chase Elliott for the win in 2023. This is a race where cup-level talent regularly shows up and still doesn't guarantee a win. And Cleetus walked in with 0 laps of race experience in this specific type of car. That is what made his decision to enter the event so interesting. He wasn't simply showing up for a casual exhibition or a low-pressure local race where the field would be easier to manage. He was putting himself directly into a race where experienced drivers know the track, understand how the tires fall off, know where the car can be pushed, and have years of experience dealing with traffic at Berlin. For Cleetus, almost every part of that process was new. The car was new to him, the track was a completely different challenge, and the competition was operating at a level he had never experienced in a super late model before. So, how did the night actually go? Better than a lot of people probably expected.